Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Empower to Live, where faith meets purpose and purpose fuels freedom. I'm your host, Andrea Rose Butler of the Becoming Women's Network. Thank you all for joining me again. We have been rolling through our series on breaking up with limitations, and I'm just so excited that you are here with us for another evening. But before we get started into our show, I just wanted to say thank you to the people who have been praying for Jamaica, and praying in particular for my family that is still there. I've heard from a few of them today, and it's like a weight lifted. It's still family that we have not been able to get in contact with, because, of course, still, um, the internet is out, power is out. So we still have not been able to reach some of our family that's there, but we have heard from a few of them who have talked to some of them. But so just continue to pray for Jamaica, continue to pray for my family there. I know they were like, God is so good. The anxiety and the fear that they experience, and just the people there. But I thank God for the resilience and the hope that they still have, in spite of the devastation that is currently there. A lot of destruction and so forth. We don't know about lives lost yet. They have, there have been some, but the exact amount we don't know. But we thank God for the lives that were spared, and we pray for the family of those who have lost loved ones. So again, I just want to appreciate all of you that prayed for Jamaica, pray for the Caribbean. I have friends who are from Haiti, as well, that are in that realm, as well. Friends, Caribbean people, we stand together. So I've had friends who are from Barbados and the Bahamas, and all those areas around Jamaica. And so for those All right, guys. We've been talking about breaking up with limitations and our with having a digital detox. And I guess my computer is taking me seriously because my system, everything just shut down in the middle of the show. It says I'm still live and still going. However, StreamYard has totally shut down. And so I don't know if that is on my end or if it's on their end. But you know what? We're going to keep pushing. We're going to keep going forward. And you know whether it's on their end or on my end, I do not know. But we are going to keep going with our show for today. You know, talking about taking a break um, and detoxing from our digital lives. And I think it's so apropos that that the system went down right in the middle of the show, so which is really wild. And you know, so we'll just I'm on my phone, so we'll keep it pushing, we'll keep going. Thank God for technology when it works, and when it doesn't, you know, it is and it is what it is. And so I thank you all again, like I was saying, thank you all for the prayers that have gone up for Jamaica. And again, I just appreciate you all. And so let's get back into our show for this episode. You know, we're talking about taking a digital detox. And I know there's so many people who they love their phones. You can't go without anywhere without their phones. It's so connected to technology, and technology has has really got us in a chokehold. I was listening to it was Kev on stage. Well, my daughter was listening to it, and it was in the background, and so I was listening to him, and he was talking about the time when um, we didn't have the laptops and iPads and all those different things, and we still managed somehow to make it through life without all of these things. Where as kids today, they can't go, they're in school, they're babies with tablets, and so they have learned and been indoctrinated early to be connected to technology. And so, how, if we start them off young, how do we detox? If we who came in later with technology are having a hard time breaking away from the technology, what's going to happen to the younger ones who are, they're starting out at 2 years old playing on tablets and iPads and all these different things that they've got, and they've got cell phones, and, they can't go anywhere without it. And so, we anchor into that, when we let go of those things. So it's one of the things we're talking about, letting go, purging things that no longer serve us, getting our mental health together, tapping into our creativity. And, how do we continue to do that and still be connected? And so there's nothing that's intrinsically wrong with having technology. It is a great tool for us to sometimes connect. Like I shared, being able to reach out to my family in Jamaica, that would not have been possible, and to be able to stay connected, be able to talk to them in such a way that was good, to have that connection and to be able to reach people around the world through technology, our phones, Facebook, all of these different things that are good for us to be able to do ministry. When the pandemic came in, to be able to connect the church together around the world. I still fellowship with my church in Virginia, although I live in Mexico. I'm still able to stay connected to them because of technology, because of that. And so, because of these distinctive things, being able to do that. But sometimes we can be addicted to our to technology, where we can't go anywhere without it. We're so we wake up and we're like, "Where's my phone? Where's my phone?" Um, And I joke with my oldest daughter about, I know when she was younger, she was still in high school, she had surgery, and she was coming out of anesthesia, and the first thing, she's looking for her phone, and she's crying tears because she can't find her phone. I'm like, I have your phone. It's okay. And the doctors, nurses were all laughing because of the fact that her first thought, not how did the surgery go, not how was the procedure, none of those things. Where's my phone? And I don't know about you, some people, when they leave their phone, they're like, they go into a major panic because we've been so conditioned now to, be connected to our phones, to be dead scrolling on the internet, on social media. We waste so much of our lives with that. So how can we reclaim, back our lives? How can we reclaim our time? Like they say, and when in Congress or whatever, and somebody's talking, and then somebody, answers a question, and they keep going on, and they're like, "I'm reclaiming my time." And so we've got to go in and reclaim our time from social media. We talked about, tapping into your creativity, but how can you tap into creativity when you're so focused on technology? We have to step away from that. And one of the things, and one of the practical things that we do is that there's no phone at dinner, at meal times. You can have it at the table, but it's got to be face down. And we're not going to tap in. We're not going to look at the phone. We're not going to do any of those things while we're eating. Put the phone down and disconnect during meal times. And it's something that maybe you can do. And if you find yourself, scrolling on, your phone, can you put it aside for like 30 minutes at a time, maybe in the mornings, before you tap into social media, you know, look at, have a physical Bible versus a Bible on your phone to give you an opportunity maybe to not connect. Because sometimes, we pick the phone up and we're like, oh, I'm going to read my Bible. I'm going to do this on my phone. And something catches our eye, a notification or something like that. And we've gone off into getting on social media, and then we're trapped. So what are some ways that you can do that, where you can, find yourself setting yourself up for success from that digital detox? And, technology is not our enemy. I said this before, it's not your enemy, but it will steal your peace. And I found this out this week, when Melissa was heading for Jamaica. I found myself, on the news looking for word, especially after they made landfall. I was like scrolling, me and the prime minister became best friends because I was like, okay, I need information. And I had to stop, myself yesterday. And I said, why are you doing this to yourself? why are you doing this to yourself? Because I was just up scrolling, looking for news, looking for all updates, just looking for updates. And, I had to change my focus. And so I like put my phone down, and the song popped into my head. And I just started walking around and just started singing, because I recognized that, yes, it was good, and the updates were there, and they were coming in, by the hour. And, this member of parliament was updating, and all these different things, and people were posting pictures and, showing the devastation, and all this stuff was happening. And I found myself just getting sucked in to it, until the fact that, it was starting to bring something to me that I was just like, no. I was like, nope, you're not going to do this to yourself. And I finally had to say, let's cut this off. I had to detox myself. I had to unplug myself from watching all of this stuff, because it was not serving the purpose for which it was actually for. And I found myself again just being sucked in. And so I had to say, nope. I had to reclaim my time, reclaim my thoughts, and let us know, like, where am I? What is happening, and what do I need to do in order for me to stay focused in on what was important at that moment. And that moment was, I needed to pray. I need to pray even more for, what was happening there versus looking at the updates of what was happening, because it was taking me places I didn't want to go. And so I had to shift my focus. And sometimes we have to do that. We have to shift our focus, shift it on when we find ourselves, going down that rabbit hole. Sometimes we even may have to, these maybe sites that we're visiting, whether it's Facebook or, maybe it's things that's showing up on your feed. Maybe you need to mute them because they may be leading you down to a place that you don't want to go. Where I found myself was getting more upset, especially since I could not hear from my family. That made it even worse. And so, my mind was running and all these things. And so I had to say to myself, stop, put the phone down, um, reclaim my time, and then shift my focus. And so sometimes that may be for you, that may be something that you have to do when you find yourself in these places where you find, you wasted 2 or 3 hours on your phone, just on social media, just scrolling through Instagram or Facebook or YouTube videos or whatever it is. What can you do to regain that time? How can you tap into maybe creativity? How can you tap into, your purpose, the plan that God has for you? How can you begin to say, how can I use my time wisely versus doing what I'm currently doing? Like I said, it's not, technology is not our enemy, but sometimes we need to, too much of anything is too much. And so sometimes we may need to say, I need to put my phone down. I'm going to take today, or, I'm going to not be on my phone after 10 o'clock, or, first thing in the morning, I will not touch my phone. I'm not going to touch my phone during meal times. I'm not going to do this. I'm not, and set it in motion. Now we've got to set boundaries. I talked about that before, about how do we set boundaries, and especially boundaries with ourselves, because that's the hardest thing for us to do. A lot of times, we can say to someone else, and we can we can draw the line in the sand when it's external. But what about when it's internal, when it's you, when you are the problem? And you need to say to yourself, I need to be delivered from my phone. I need to be delivered from technology. I need to be delivered, from social media. And set aside that time. I've had people, take a fast from it. I've had to do that in the past. Fast from social media, fast from my phone. And there was a lot of times, in the past, I was just like, I put my phone down. I'm like, it's like, I've been calling you. And it's like, I don't even know where my phone is. And, recently, within the last 2 years or so, I found myself more connected to my phone. And I was like, I need to go back to the way things were. And so if that's you, like me, you may have to do that. You may have to say, I need to put my phone down. I saw, I think it was on a TV show or one of those things where they had a little box, and they will put the phone in a box and lock it for the evening and connect. Maybe you need to play board games, with your kids, have face-to-face communications with someone, go for a walk, write that book that you've been putting off, go back to school that you've been saying you wanted to do, start that business that you wanted to do. And so how can we take that time and, turn it around for us? And so my challenge for you for this week, and you can get away without a challenge, is that we need to find a way to set boundaries with technology. What's something that you're going to do starting today, not tomorrow, but today? What's something that you can do today to set that boundary, to set that limitation? Whether it's, no screen time after 10 or 11, whatever time you go to bed. They say usually 30 minutes to an hour before. We should be able to start unwinding from technology and kind of bringing ourselves down, set that, you know, I have on my phone where you can do modes. And, at 10 o'clock, my Fitbit goes to me, it's time to start winding down, so I get that countdown from Fitbit at 10 o'clock telling me it's time for me to start letting go of things. Maybe that's something that you need to do. Set reminders, set a date with yourself to say, this is time for me to start winding down, and then do it, actually do it. So not just make it a suggestion of what I may do, but actually take the time to do what you need to do in order for you to do that. And they talks about, that having, your phone a lot of times also. So you want to reclaim your health as well, reclaim your vision. And it's little by little, being able to disconnect and to connect with what's important to you, which is your family, your purpose, and your God, to make sure that we are doing those things. And look at the time, about writing stuff down. So I want you to take an inventory of your time. How much time are you spending on your phone? Set a timer for when you start, maybe starting looking at Facebook, and or a stopwatch, and give yourself time. There is an app also that I don't know about iPhones, but on Android, you can set that up under the well-being. You can set up screen time limitations for yourself if you're finding a hard time, with how much time you're spending. Unfortunately, we had to do this to my mom. My kids are like, she is a teenager. She is on her phone all the time. So we had to limit her screen time, and say, okay, you are just on here way too much. And so we had to limit her screen time, just like you would a child or a teenager or whatever. And so, maybe that's something you need to do for yourself. If you find yourself on your phone so much, or if you look around and you find yourself, your first thought when you wake up in the morning, is, where's my phone? You may want to say, okay, I need to change that. I need to change my focus on where's my phone. And instead of, where's my phone? So where's my God? And start praying and giving yourself that opportunity, and then begin to reach for your phone, but give God his due first. Speaking to myself too, and make sure that, we are doing the thing that we need to do. So as we are, wrapping up this series, we've already learned that we need to let go of procrastination. And that has been so helpful for me to be able to do that, and I just want to share that in the past month or so, almost 2 months, I've finished 2 books. I'm working on a third book. And so the first one is already out, which Ways of the Kingdom, Lessons from a Moth. That is out on Amazon and all the different places where books are sold. And I have a release date for the other. It's finished. It's going to be Thanksgiving, not just a holiday. How to we transform our life with gratitude, our day with gratitude. And that's a devotional book with lots of writing for you to do. And how do we tap into that spirit of gratitude each and every day, and how can we look for ways to be thankful and to be grateful. And that's important as we lead into the Thanksgiving series, holidays, and Christmas is coming up. And so those will be available. They're both available on Amazon. And so, I don't almost plug myself and the things that I do, but that's something that, in working through procrastination, to be able to sit down and say, okay, you have these book ideas, finish them, get them done. And I was able to do that, and, started working on the third one. And it's just amazing how my creativity has been flowing. I've been writing more poetry over the last 3 months or so. That they have just been coming and flowing and doing different things like that. And so probably in the new year, I may put them into a capitulation of poetry and get that book together as well. That's something that I had started working on, putting that together for a while now, but I keep writing and keep adding to it and keep adding to it. So I may need to just go ahead and publish that one and then do a follow up volume to that. One of the things that I'm also working on as well is, you've got that book inside of you. I want to do some actual writing workshops in getting that, and that's coming up. I'm going to be doing some here locally and in person here in Mexico, along with the Bible study that we are also doing as well here. But I want to be able to share my gift and help you, motivate you to get going. And so my plan is that we will write a book together, and then we'll publish it, and so you become a published author. I'm not going to be like a lot of folks I see when they have you write a chapter for a book, and it's like $4,000 they want. And I understand that there's a lot of work going into publishing. There's a lot of late nights when you're trying to put stuff together, but that's not my goal. My goal is for you to be able to accomplish something. And if that your dream is to write that book, then that's something we're going to do together. And even if you're only writing a chapter, so we're going to be doing a short stories. I haven't come up with a theme yet, so that's one of the reasons I have not said much, but more to come on that. And so you'll see that in the coming weeks that probably flush it out, and then we'll start promoting that in the new year. And so we'll have like a weekly Zoom call, and then I'll have the ones also in person where we're going to work through writing the book. So that came to me actually last night when you told you about when you start detoxing and you put that phone down, and I was like, I'm done with social media. I was just laying there, and that thought came to mind, and I was just like sharing it with my oldest daughter, and I was just like, what do you think about this? And she's like, you'll be perfect for that. You do this anyway. You're always encouraging people to write. You help people write, so why not just go ahead and turn that into a part of the focus on getting your book out. So thank you all for sticking around with me for this evening. Even through our technological difficulties, StreamYard on my laptop still has not come back up yet. I don't know what's going on, so I'm going to shut my computer down and we're going to start over. But I thank God for technology, that the app on my phone worked and I was able to continue, just kind of picked up where we left off. So if you're watching this, you're going to see that break where I was trying to get back in. And so here we are. So again, thank you all so much. And we'll start our new series on next Thursday. We're going to be talking about growth and gratitude. So we'll be in series on growth and gratitude as we roll into the thankful season that we're in, but also recognizing that Thanksgiving is not just a holiday. It's every day that we need to give thanks. So I appreciate all of you. Catch you all next week. Have a wonderful, wonderful evening. Thank you.